One of Evansville's most defining features is our downtown sitting on the bend of the Ohio River. But think about it. When's the last time you actually saw the river? Were you near it, or did you see it from a car or building window? Well, hopefully you've heard some buzz about the Riverfront development in the works. So we wanted to hear from the people behind the project. In today's episode, Jonathan sits down with Candace from Evansville Regional Economic Partnership and Anna. She's a landscape architect at Sasaki, which is the company that oversees the Riverfront Development Project. As we at For Evansville seek to advance human flourishing, we wanted to talk about how a new riverfront project advances human flourishing in Evansville. It's a lot more complex than you might think. We talk about things like providing equal opportunities to live, work, and play by the river, the benefits of giving the community a place to interact with people from different ages and socioeconomic backgrounds than their normal circles, and the positive physical and mental health implications of having a beautiful space. So you can learn more about the project at evansvilleregion.com. We'll put that link in the show notes, so make sure you check it out for news and updates about the project. But for now, we hope this episode makes you as excited as we are about the future of Evansville and our beautiful riverfront.
Welcome to the For Evansville podcast. My name is Jonathan, and I'm here with Candace and Anna. And today we're very excited to be talking about an exciting project development that's kind of a big deal in Evansville, something that I'm really excited about. But it's possible that some of our listeners don't know about the riverfront developments. And so let's start by just kind of talking about what is this project that we're talking about? Candace, I'm going to let you kind of just give us a broad overview, because I remember you actually talking about ideas about the Evansville riverfront years ago, and now I'm seeing a lot of those same ideas and conversations coming up. So could you just give us an overview of what's going on with the Evansville riverfront these days?
I'd be happy to. So I work for the Evansville Regional Economic Partnership, and we work really closely with our elected officials in all 4 counties of our region. But the city of Evansville specifically has dates back 100 years worth of community plans, downtown plans, tourism plans, pedestrian and trail plans that all have been calling for a more active riverfront. And through the work of Leadership Everyone and the thousands of people that they've listened to as well, so many people are calling for more riverfront development. So a couple of years ago, we applied for a grant here in Evansville, the region, that has now been able to fund this work, where we did a national request for proposals for riverfront planning. And that's looking at everything from traffic to activation to landscape architecture and the urban design of our region centered on downtown Evansville. So at that point, that's when Sasaki responded to that, what we call it an RFP. And through a series of interviews, it was just clear their passion for this work, their expertise in this area, and then the team that they brought together and just some of the early ideas. And we hired them, and we've been working with them now since Q1 of 2023.
That's great. So basically, there's been a lot of conversation about we want our riverfront is a great asset. We want it to be better. We want to capitalize on it. And we need kind of a unified plan, a unified vision for what that looks like. And we've got a grant to hire some experts to help us put together that plan, right? And Anna, you work for Sasaki. You've been there for 6 years. Is that right?
Yep, that's correct.
So tell us a little bit about Sasaki and the work that you guys do. You've done a lot of riverfront projects. I had the opportunity to hear about some of those in a presentation that you did recently. So maybe just give us a high level overview of what Sasaki does and some of the riverfront projects that you guys have done this kind of consulting work for.
Yeah, so Sasaki's been around for almost 70 years. I'm a principal and partner at the firm. I'm a landscape architect. And then on this project, we also have an urban design principal and a civil engineering principal. And that really showcases who we are as a firm. We're an interdisciplinary firm, which means that we have landscape architecture, engineering, ecologists all working together.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of different kinds of expertise go into a project like this.
Exactly. And you need to have all of those to start thinking about the complexities of a project like this. And that's really allowed us to work on some really complicated projects across the country and across the world. So we've been working in Cincinnati on the Smale Riverfront Park for over 20 years. We're on phase 9 with that city.
Oh, wow.
We're working in Chicago, and we finished the Chicago Riverfront about 5 years ago, and we'll continue on with that. And so we've really been able to kind of work with cities and communities to understand what are some of these opportunities along the major waterways. So it's really a passion of our firm, but also of mine, to really figure out how do we enhance and really celebrate the waterfronts of communities across the country.
So some of the projects that you mentioned and a lot of the ones that I saw in the presentation are like in a particular city doing like taking a riverfront and just really doing a lot of development planning around that. This project is a little bit unique, it seems like, in that there are multiple different, it's a regional project. So we're looking at Newburgh and Henderson and Evansville and Mount Vernon. Is that right? Is there
not so much? I mean, Henderson is part of our riverfront,
sure,
but it's a grant from the state of Indiana, so it's focused on those three.
Gotcha. So Newburgh, Evansville, and Mount Vernon, and sort of putting together a unified plan for all three of those riverfront areas, right?
Yeah. So that was one of the reasons we're so excited about this project, is because a lot of times it gets down to a very focused site when we're looking at a riverfront. This is looking at 50 miles.
Yeah.
And it's really an opportunity to completely transform not just how one block interacts with a riverfront, but how does a whole region start to embrace that waterway. And I think we saw this RFP, and it was just so visionary and something that really spoke to what we love to do. And so we're looking at the regional scale. Then we're looking at the downtowns of each of those three areas, and then specifically really getting into detail of downtown Evansville. And then the final scale is the Riverfront Park in downtown Evansville, and really coming up with two concepts. Right now, that's where we're at, and then getting feedback and coming away with sort of one final concept for downtown Evansville.
And you guys are in that feedback phase right now where you're kind of sharing these two sort of potential visions for the riverfront and hearing from people. What are some of the things that you're hearing that are exciting to you, or what are some aspects of this project that to you as a landscape architect seem intriguing, or like what are some of the opportunities?
Yeah, I'm smiling because I just love community engagement and getting these ideas out there. What I think we've heard over and over again is quality of life, and how do you improve that? And that's exactly what parks and embracing our waterways does. And then how do you create multi-generational spaces? So if you're coming with your kids, where do you go on the riverfront? If you are coming alone, where do you go on the riverfront? If you're coming with grandkids, where do you go? So we're trying to look at opportunities to really create those spaces. And then think about timeless design is another thing I'm starting to tease out of the community engagement, that you're not designing for one point in time or one specific person and user. And that's really going to help when we think about equity and how different people are going to be coming and using the space. We talked with Young and Established yesterday, and I think we got some amazing ideas. Somebody wanted an art walk. Somebody else mentioned like a swing forest. And so we're starting to get really creative ideas.
Middle schoolers, they've got great ideas.
And I just absolutely love that, because that's what we're going to start to do to infuse sort of that creativity and sort of identity of place, is talking to all different ages in the city.
One of the students that was at that drew a zip line across the river. He's like, okay, let's do it.
I'd be down for that. That would be an attraction for sure.
Yep, a bouncy house that would be out on the river too. So I was very excited.
A floating bounce house. Love it.
Okay. All right. My wheels are turning now. That sounds exciting. Very cool. I love this idea though of getting community buy-in, not just for now, but for in the future. There's sort of this idea that this is something our community has wanted for a long time. And for us now to be, as a community, embracing this project and moving it forward is sort of a way of honoring not just those in the past who have talked about these kinds of things and really wanted it, but a way of honoring like future Evansville residents as well, and saying we're going to create a space that people are going to enjoy for generations, and that all different kinds of people in our city can enjoy. Can you talk a little bit? I would imagine, I wasn't at any of the listening sessions, so I don't know what kind of feedback you've gotten, but in the back of my mind, I hear like sort of the stereotypical Evansville person who's very practical and maybe thrifty, saying like, okay, yeah, Riverfront Park would be great, but that seems like a luxury. And I think a lot of people in Evansville are not luxury type people. They're very practical. They're like, it's good enough the way it is. Like, why do we need this? But I think that there's a lot more to a riverfront project like this than just let's have a beautiful space. And I think we can talk about the value of beautiful spaces too, because sometimes that's underestimated. But could you both maybe speak to what does a riverfront project like this do for a community like Evansville? And maybe not hypothetically, like let's talk about Evansville and why we think this investment specifically is going to be a really good thing on a lot of different layers for the city and for the region.
Yeah. It's a big question because there are so many different benefits that it does bring. These kinds of investments you mentioned thrifty, they can be expensive, but they can also provide so much value, and that value can be quantified, and it also is part of quality of life. So, as it brings more people, more development, people want to spend money buying their grandkids ice cream. They want to spend money having a nice dinner and with a river view. Those opportunities don't exist right now. You can't buy an ice cream and with a view of the river in Evansville. So just the opportunity for more development brings increased opportunities to live, work, and play on the riverfront, but then also the central location of all of our downtowns and the way that they are walkable. A lot of people do drive to our riverfront, obviously, and that's the number one mode of transportation, but you don't have to. If transportation is a challenge for you, it is walkable. It is accessible by different trails and bikes. And so there is that sense of just being a central gathering space. And one thing we talk about so much in the world of community development is serendipity and like giving more people the opportunity to bump into people and interact with people who aren't in the same stage of life as them, who aren't in the same socioeconomic class as them, just giving all different kinds of people a place to go and a place to interact. There's nothing that attracts people to a place than more people. So
right, yeah.
Giving people that place to go to, I think, is really exciting. And I'm sure Anna has other examples to share as well.
I think I would say that it's starting with understanding that the Ohio River here is spectacular. Mm-hmm. And people, sort of take that for granted that you live here and you have that. But it really is so different than any other city that I work with. And even the Ohio River in Cincinnati, it looks very different. This has got the unbelievable sort of character, the bend that really defines the city. And so I think we need to start just by understanding that this is very special compared to other places in the country. It's unbelievable. So when you start with that and then think about what a really beautiful riverfront could do, park, new development, new activity on it, it's going to be transformative, and it's going to be a place of pride of when someone comes to visit, where do you take them? Mm-hmm. I would ask people, where do you take people now? If you had this as an amazing opportunity, it's a destination. And then it has all those ripple effects that Candace is talking about to create those serendipitous moments that are bringing people together that never expected to sort of meet. It's allowing for those multi-generational sort of experiences to happen. It really gives a sense of pride. So I think there's just so much potential. And going back to the thrifty comment, I think what we do at Sasaki is we start to make sure that these projects are kind of right-sized, but also visionary. Mm-hmm. So it needs to be big and bold, but then we can start with a first phase that's going to unlock the potential of that. So
right.
The Smale Park, again, in Cincinnati, started with a DOTD grant. And it wasn't a huge grant.
Which is a federal grant.
Mm-hmm. And from there, it started to bring state grants to it. Then it started to bring philanthropic dollars, and people got really excited. And, now it's for 20 years and an unbelievable park on the river. So we'll be looking at that and how do we phase this, and working with Candace and her team to ensure that it really aligns with different funding opportunities.
Yeah.
And one thing we love about Sasaki is different plans that we've done in the past have been run by planners, and which have been great and have led us to this point. But the great thing about Sasaki is the depth of their experience,
Right.
And the breadth of their abilities. So Anna talked about, having the engineers on staff and the ecologists and the architects and the urban designers and the landscape architects. So they're not just going to say, oh, this would be pretty, and look at these pretty pictures. They're looking like they're working with the Corps of Engineers, the Army Corps of Engineers. Is this possible? There's a levee we have to be concerned with. There's traffic that moves through the region in different ways. There's utilities buried. They're looking at every one of those maps. They understand those things. They know not just what would be pretty, but what's possible, and so really starting to get into how do we get this done.
Yeah.
So that's the big difference this time around compared to various different things that have been done in the past.
Yeah, I love that because it's sort of a mix of what's practical and possible, and also what is going to be beautiful. It's sort of function and beauty, which are sort of these two aspects of design, that if you have something beautiful but it's not really practical, then that's not great. And if you have something practical but it's not beautiful, then nobody wants to be there and use it. So Candace, I'd be curious to hear from you because, like I said, I remember hearing you even several years ago talking about ideas for the riverfront that were exciting to me. I was like, oh, I've never thought of it that way. I've never thought of those kind of possibilities. I'm curious to hear from you, what are some of the things that you see in the two plans that are put forth right now that you're just personally really excited about, that you think would be, one of those transformative aspects for downtown?
Yeah, great question. I think the thing that is something that I've heard talked about a lot, called for in a lot of different ways, but we're definitely seeing it here, is so many people talking about, which would be a big change, but the need to, that right now in the 3 blocks on either side of Main Street on Riverside Drive, it just doesn't feel safe because of the number of lanes, the speed of traffic.
Yeah.
It's just not, and I personally, even living 8 blocks from that spot, it wasn't a place that I took my children because it feels dangerous with how fast those cars go on Riverside Drive.
Yeah, even if you're just walking along the Greenway with your kids, you feel like you have to keep them close by because they could wander off into traffic.
And so the question that we're asking and we're hearing a lot of people tell us is there's other ways to get from, let's say, Henderson to the west side of Evansville. Mm-hmm. There are, even highways, 41 to the Lloyd. There aren't other places where Main Street and our riverfront meet. There's one place for that. And the opportunity for that to be a beautiful place, a gathering place, is right now it's a thoroughfare. Mm-hmm. I think the opportunity there to make something that we love to go to, where you can see the water, where you can, just enjoy being, is exciting to me. And giving the people in our region a place that feels safe and that they want to go to, I think is the most exciting. But obviously a huge undertaking as well.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. What are some of the things that you're hearing during the feedback sessions? And do you think there are things that are standing out so far that you think are going to alter the course of either of those plans, or what? I guess just what's kind of your general sense as you're hearing from the community, things that are standing out?
We're asking the community not to choose one concept over the other. We're asking them to tell us what are some aspects in each of those concepts that they like. And ultimately, the final concept's going to be a combination of some of the best ideas from each one. Mm-hmm. So what we're starting to hear, again, is as Candace was saying, Riverside Drive is a barrier. So looking at really slowing that down, narrowing it, maybe making it a shared street, which is really where you have biking, walking, and driving potentially on there. I think we've heard a lot about the need of having, coffee and some restaurants and places to go on the riverfront. So I think that's going to be coming out. I think places for kids to play. I mean, Mickey's Kingdom's great, but are there other opportunities that are even closer to Main Street? And then some of the ideas of the park, like how do we make it feel more like a park and less of a hard plaza? And so softening that up. And even one of the kids last night said that she just loves to go out there and look at the water because it helps her feel calm and kind of be a break from school.
Yeah.
And could we get more kind of green space and shade and trees out there? So those are a lot of the ideas that I think we're getting excited about, and they're going to be a combination, again, of both concepts.
Yeah.
I think another one, just to add on to that, is more people having the ability to live with a water view, or at least walkable to the water at every different price point of rent or purchase. So I think housing opportunities are another thing that we're really looking at.
Yeah. Well, and that's something, so yeah, housing is a great aspect of that, but also like having a really nice amenity like a riverfront park that is accessible to everybody, I think is just a really beautiful concept and idea. So Anna, before we started recording, I asked you to just kind of share like some of your favorite projects that you guys have already worked on, and you were describing like taking your family to opening day of a project that you guys had worked on and completed. Can you just kind of share a little bit of what that experience was like? And the reason I'm asking that is I think whenever we're working on planning and we're coming up with ideas, I think it can really be helpful to like envision what's it really going to be like to show up and inhabit a space like this. So what were some of those emotions or realizations for you when you got to go from like seeing a park drawn out on paper to actually like being there and seeing people interact with the space and to be there?
Yeah, I love that question. I think for me, in starting early on in a project, it's really understanding the site, those challenges. I think what you're saying, function and kind of the beauty of place. And so I actually always tell my teams, like, function will inform form, and form being kind of the beauty of the place and defining it. And so what is really fun is to start with a lot of those challenges, make sure we have those technical aspects right. And the project that you mentioned was an old brownfield, a rail yard in Florida that we converted, 180 acres into a central park that is now a gathering place. And what was so impactful is drawing that, studying that for, years, 3 years, then building that for another 2 years, and then taking my family, which included my 2-year-old twins and my parents and my husband's parents, all to opening day, is seeing how those different generations use those spaces. So from the big sort of nature playground to the nature center to the children's museum to where you could go kayak or walk, is just trying to create those places for everybody to come, and then to actually see my family using those places was really amazing. And I think the last thing is just the pride and excitement of the community. I just walked around. I think there was 40,000 people on opening day, and just hearing people saying, "Oh, I can't believe Lakeland, Florida has this.
Yeah,
this is amazing. Can you believe this? It's here. This is free." And just kind of sitting in the background, listening to those conversations, it's humbling and honestly one of the best experiences. So I'm excited to be here. I told Candace and Josh when we interviewed and when we won the project, this is not just a year-long project. This is going to be something we're going to be working together for years, and it's a partnership, and it's helping see some of those big moments unfold, and we're really excited to be here doing that.
Yeah.
I think one thing that, as she was talking, it made me think of is being somebody who was born and raised in Evansville. I love, especially when we were young and established, I love how the youth think big and have these good ideas, and then sometimes you can lose that as you get older. And I think that having Sasaki here and our project manager on this Evansville project is she just came off being project manager for the largest urban park in Europe, which is in Athens.
Wow.
So just, that level of quality and expertise, and it's just amazing that now they're working here.
Yeah.
So like I love the sharing that with people who I talk to in Evansville and in the region, because this level of expertise is here and they're excited about this project. And I really hope that knowing that gives some pride to people who are here and live in Evansville, and some excitement around what's to come.
Yeah, I think sometimes people in Evansville don't realize how beautiful the riverfront already is. Like you were talking about the bend in the river and all of that, and just how unique and beautiful that is. And sometimes I'll have folks from out of town who are in Evansville visiting, and they're just captivated by just the view of the river. And I think whenever you grew up here, like, you just kind of don't think it's that special, maybe.
One of the things that they have pointed out, which seeing it all the time, is kind of, oh yeah, that's true, is like, as we were walking up here to this site, as we were walking up Main Street, you can't even see it because we have that levee, and it makes it difficult to actually see. So you're not, even when you're right next to it, you don't always know that. Sure. So you do almost almost feels like there's been a little bit of like we've turned our backs on it. Yeah.
Having a space where you can appreciate the beauty of the riverfront and interact with it. I know I heard you kind of talk about that in the presentation, this idea that like you want to be able to have proximity to the riverfront and to really be able to appreciate and enjoy it. And I think, that value of like, I guess I want to kind of wrap up our time just kind of getting your thoughts on like, what is the value of being able to have a space in your city where everybody can come together and enjoy something that's beautiful about your city? Because again, I think sometimes we discredit that, or we undersell like the value of beautiful spaces. Like, it's a luxury, it's an amenity, but I think that there's something that does to a community and to individual people to have a space where you can go and just enjoy a beautiful view and be in a space and, I don't know, have some kind of interaction with something that's beautiful that is intrinsic to your city. So I'd love to hear just your thoughts on like, what do you see as the value of that? Why should we invest in having spaces that are beautiful and not just functional, and having spaces where we can spend time together enjoying something like that?
I love these questions. I taught at Northeastern University for a while, and did a lot of research and understanding the value of spaces. And you can talk about it in the abstract, but there are actual facts and reality to this. And so one example is when you have a beautiful space and you have a place that people enjoy walking, they'll actually go out of their way and take a longer route to walk along that place. And that ties to health and sort of the physical health of having beautiful spaces and encouraging people to walk and get out. I even think about the project that you asked me about in Florida. People are walking more than they've probably walked in a long time in this region. So there's a physical health, there's also the mental health. And so there's also facts and research about just seeing water helps relax you, helps relieve stress. That is proven. So you have the health of it, you also have the economics of it. And again, there are economics that are tied to parks and open space, and how do you really see that as a catalyst for future sort of investment in place?
Just in the last 48 hours, I've had conversations with CEOs of some of our largest companies. We've had conversations with middle schoolers from Glenwood and McGarry. And then we've had conversations with people who are retired and enjoying a quieter and slower pace of life, who've lived in Evansville for 70 or 80 years. And all of them are saying, like, we want more to do at the riverfront. Some people just want to sit in some shade, and then others want to romp around, right. And then others want to sit and enjoy a nice meal. So it's just like how in a a world that we live in today that's so fast paced, there's so many things vying for our attention. How many other things can have that broad of prioritization and that broad of agreement that, this is something that we want to see and we want to have in our lives, in our city. So I think that is really beautiful to me.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, a lot of times we talk about how we think of a city as like an ecosystem of neighbors, and that sometimes in our current fast-paced world, like you talked about, where so many of our interactions take place virtually and so much of our life is sort of disembodied, we lose sight of just how connected we are to the places that we inhabit. And there's this really sort of unique relationship that we have to places, where the places that we inhabit sort of shape us, but we also have the opportunity to shape the places that we're in. And so I love this work that you guys are doing, to say, how can we get our whole community sort of working together to create a really beautiful space that we can inhabit and connect with, that gives us the opportunity to connect with each other. So I know that it's hard work and that it's long-term and that there's a lot of dreaming big and attracting investment and, balancing a lot of different perspectives and things like that. But we're excited that this project is happening, and just want to say thank you for all the hard work that goes into it.
Thank you for having us, giving us a chance to talk about it.